Yeah, I watched Hard Eyes, so you don't have to. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it was actually a decent film. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, because at first glance, it appears to be just a cheap, generic slasher film that implements elements of rom-coms. Which, side note, I had no idea the movie was part rom-com before watching. Would have saved me the embarrassment of going to see a couple's film by myself. The point is, I wasn't bored while watching, and I actually enjoyed it, all things considered. That said, however, we're going to dive into what I thought about the movie overall, as well as give y'all a basic synopsis of the film, just in case you're hesitant about seeing it as well. The biggest positive I can give this movie is that it's self-aware. It knows it's nothing revolutionary or unique. A Valentine's Day killer isn't original, and neither is a rom-com slasher film. But it works surprisingly well with Hard Eyes. As a rom-com, I was pleasantly surprised. All the romance elements in the movie work great because the main characters actually have chemistry. Mason Gooding's character Jay is probably the best example of this. He is the Riz Master. He is just a smooth-talking son of a bitch. Obviously, it is cringy at times, but it wouldn't work as well if it wasn't for the movie's own self-awareness. And because of that, it's able to be cringe without being insufferable. Like, I wasn't rolling my eyes the whole time while watching or frivolously jumping in my chair. All the jokes in the movie weren't bad. And I can count on one hand the amount of rom-coms overall that made me laugh. And now I'm gonna have to add a new finger because the comedy in Hard Eyes is really good. Basically, all the cliche rom-com elements that I normally despise aren't present in this film. It was never cheesy compared to, say, any rom-com when you turn on the Hallmark Channel. Stepping away from the rom-com aspects, let's talk about the film as a slasher. It's just a really dumb concept. A serial killer wearing a mask with hard eyes is targeting couples on Valentine's Day. Incredible. I'm not opposed to the concept of anti-holiday mascots with horror films. I think a great example of it done right is with Krampus. However, I don't think anyone was asking for an anti-Cupid slasher film. Though what helps in the case of Hard Eyes is how he's just a normal dude. He's just a person who uses a variety of weapons, including knives, arrows, hell, even a harpoon gun at one point. They get very creative with the arsenal, which gives us some gory, over-the-top kills. This, combined with the film's self-awareness, allows them to just have fun with these sequences. It's very comical. None of the kills are going to make you feel uncomfortable. In fact, there are some that the film itself knows are stupid. For example, there was this beheading scene where someone's head was just left dangling from their body by a couple threads of flesh as it slowly tears away. It felt very cartoonish to a certain degree, but never like a parody, which I always think is a tough line to draw, and I think if other films like Emilia Perez found that distinction, maybe they wouldn't be as hated in comparison. Now that I've praised the film a bit, let's talk about the plot and what I didn't like about it. It's just a very generic slasher film. The plot revolves around a killer, Hard Eyes, who over the last few years has gone on a killing spree targeting couples on Valentine's Day. Our protagonists are these two not lovers. Jay, the guy I mentioned before, is trying to win over this girl named Allie, who's basically given up on love because she got her heart broken. Allie makes a move on Jay to try and make her ex jealous, and Hard Eyes sees this. Thus sets into motion the rest of the film where he's hunting them down and they're just trying to not die. The plot isn't my biggest complaint, however. What I really disliked about the film is how they tried so hard to be like Scream, and that is made abundantly clear with the ending. So, spoilers, it turns out there are multiple killers taking on the persona of Hard Eyes. The one we've been following throughout the movie is not solely responsible for the web of murders that have taken place over the years, and might not even be the original. They're a bunch of individuals who, at some point, were inspired by the work of Hard Eyes, thus decided to take on the persona every Valentine's Day. Whoa! It actually wouldn't be the worst ending if it was executed better. Plus, their motivation for killing is just really fucking lame. I thought it was gonna be something cliche, like Hard Eyes got rejected, so now he kills couples every Valentine's Day because he's lonely. But it turns out the actual reason is even worse. Their motivation for killing is because it's a kink. I'm not even exaggerating, they say that verbatim. Throughout the movie while watching, I had hoped they would subvert expectations. And to give credit where credit is due, they did, just not very good. I would have liked if Hard Eyes was some sort of contrarian, and instead of it being because he's lonely or it's a kink, it's because they have this ideal of love that extends beyond the cliches, especially on Valentine's Day. So they target couples who are in this fraudulent relationship built on lies, cliches, and heat of the moment type bit. Thus, killing them is their way of exposing the truth by taking a literal approach to the phrase, "till death do us part." It's just weird that their whole motivation for killing is because it's a fetish. Fucking Yoshikage Kira had a fetish, yet there was still more depth to him as a serial killer. Meanwhile, the Hard Eyes are just moaning, caressing the villains, literally about to bust at the sight of killing some random couple who probably won't even be in love past the honeymoon phase. But what the hell do I know? I've got on my thinking cap. Maybe I need to kill someone so I know what it's like to have a fetish. I do like the final showdown between the couple and Hard Eyes, but similar to my critique of Smile, the ending was just really disappointing. I don't know what it is about modern horror films, but they can't just seem to make a good ending. Even if the movie is decent, like with Hard Eyes, having it end so abruptly takes away the impact. It's just lazy. Another criticism I have is how the Hard Eyes killer just isn't scary. Aforementioned, they're a normal dude. They're not some paranormal, supernatural type being like a lot of other slasher villains. At least not yet. I don't know what direction they're going to take the Hard Eyes cinematic universe. The point is, they're a serial killer, first and foremost. And often what makes a serial killer so menacing and terrifying is that sense of relatability and overall depth as a person. Hard Eyes has no depth and is actually trash at killing people. I'm not saying you need to give them some tragic backstory or have them go all John Wick on their kills, but maybe a better motivation would have been nice, or at least some subtle hints into the psychology of their mindset. Spoilers, Hard Eyes does get unmasked and does have a connection to our protagonist. So why didn't they use that to give Hard Eyes some much needed depth? They just weren't terrifying, and knowing now how the movie ends, maybe that's what they were hinting at, but I think I'm giving Sony way too much credit. They still could have tried harder to make a serial killer actually scary. Overall though, the movie is still better than I expected, all things considered. It's not an amazing film by any means, but it is surprisingly good. And if you ever needed an activity for like a date night, I definitely recommend watching it. It's just a fun movie, all things considered, and I wanted to talk about it. That's really about it. So,